Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday, February 13th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China's rolled out enhanced measures for transport and crowd management to ensure smooth travel during the busy Spring Festival holiday period. Around 50 heads of government and other officials have gathered in Europe for the annual Munich Security Conference. The governor of Minnesota is urging vigilance in the coming days as immigration officers prepare to leave the state. In business, China's consumer goods trade-in program has reached full coverage across the country. In sports, a Chinese speed skater is medaled at the Winter Olympics in Italy. In culture and entertainment, we hear from some performers at the upcoming Spring Festival Gala. Now the day's top stories. China's rolled out enhanced transport and crowd management measures to handle a holiday travel surge this weekend. Railway authorities have upgraded station services and arranged wheelchair assistance for passengers in need. Road travel is projected to account for around 80% of all cross-regional trips this year. In response, Beijing and many other cities have sped up the construction and upgrading of electric vehicle charging facilities at highway service areas. Meanwhile, major and medium-sized airports have added more self-service check-in kiosks, baggage drop counters, and security screening equipment to improve efficiency and ease congestion during the peak travel period. China's outbound tourism is expected to surge during the holiday period. Popular destinations include Russia, Australia, Thailand, and South Korea. Japan's appeal among Chinese tourists has waned amid ongoing bilateral diplomatic tensions. During the first week of the 2026 Spring Festival travel rush, flights between China and Japan dropped by nearly 1,300 compared to the same period last year, and that's a decline of around 50%. Domestically, travel demand is split between warm weather destinations and snow resorts. Hainan in the south and Changbai Mountain in the northeast are among the top choices. With just a few days to go before the Year of the Horse arrives, major ports in China are seeing a two-way travel rush. Overseas tourists are coming to experience an authentic Chinese New Year.
Well, we've been here many times.
6 or 7?
Yeah, at least 6 or 7 times. Normally just for shopping, dinner, massage, bit of a change from Hong Kong.
Last year I have a really good experience about Chinese Spring Festival. I know about eating dumpling. I love it so much, and I never see dragon dance. I want to see maybe this year. I hope so.
Chinese immigration authorities have forecast an average of over 2 million cross-border trips per day over the Spring Festival holiday, and that's an increase of more than 14% from last year. Major international airports expect to see a significant passenger surge. They predict an outbound travel peak on Sunday, while inbound flows will reach their highest between February 22nd and 23rd. China's Spring Festival travel rush is famous for scenes of packed trains and travelers laden with luggage. But this year, some passengers are traveling lighter than ever and with their beloved pets, thanks to 2 new pilot services rolled out by China Railway Express ahead of the Chinese New Year. Huang Yicheng and Boo Boo, check it out.
This is Boo Boo. Every Spring Festival, when I pack my bags to go home, he tries to squeeze into my suitcase. But usually, he had to stay behind. And I would drag heavy luggage through crowded stations. This year is completely different. Boo Boo is coming with me.
A few months ago, China's high-speed rail introduced the pilot pet transportation services, and more recently, luggage delivery services. Today, I'm experiencing both firsthand.
First off, pet check-in.
这里已经有一只猫了。
And then we're provided boxes, check certificates, paid pet ticket, and place a furry friend into the box.
4个小时啊。
It's the first time I'm traveling completely hands-free. While some pets disembark, others get on. Booking both services is easy through the ticketing app. For pet transport, a quarantine certificate is required. For luggage delivery, a pickup can be arranged from your home. During the trip, staff monitor pest conditions remotely. Staff also perform routine checks, feeding water, making sure everything is okay.
Each compartment can carry up to 7 pets, and during the Spring Festival travel rush, more cities are joining the service. The slots fill up fast.
After 2 hours, I arrived at my destination, Zhengzhou. Bubu and other 2 cats step out. The last stop, pickup area. Other owners are already here.
Spring Festival is about reunion.
And this year, that reunion isn't slowed down by heavy luggage or by leaving loved ones behind.
That was Huang Yicheng reporting. Chinese New Year celebrations are taking place around the world. In France, hundreds of people gathered for traditional dancing, drumming, and a horse show in Chantilly, known as France's horse riding capital. Sarah Coates reports.
The Year of the Horse is galloping towards us, and in Chantilly, the soundtrack to that is thunderous. With dancers in motion, drums driving the rhythm, and hundreds of hooves inside this 18th century venue. The grand stables of Château de Chantilly have come alive this week with celebrations. It was built by the 17th Prince of Condé around 1740, who was more than fond of horses.
Oh, it's incredible, and it's an honor to have this celebration here in the Grand Stable. But we are in the capital of the horses here in Chantilly, and this place has been created by a prince who was sure, it's a legend, that he will be reincarnated in a horse.
And while this event brought diplomats and dignitaries, it was these French performers that had guests talking.
This reception is not just a showcase of Chinese tradition, but a statement of cultural exchange.
You know, in France we are very diversified. Every kind of cultures has a very big point, is to be shared to everyone. And we cannot say that some cultures can succeed or not if we want to keep it just for us.
It's that spirit of sharing that's played out on the floor. As drum beats quicken, costumes flash, and excitement grows. Then a change of scene, with horses performing inside this spectacular arena. As riders circle in the sand, the arena transforms into a stage, melding French equestrian tradition with the energy of the Chinese New Year.
We are Chinese, but we are born in French, so it's really symbolic for us to be able to connect these two cultures together, especially for such an occasion.
As the horses and performers take the final bow, the crowd are left ready to saddle up to ride into the year ahead.
That was Sarah Coates reporting. Classrooms across Mexico are also joining the celebrations. Through Mandarin lessons and cultural workshops, young Mexicans are learning the traditions behind China's most important holiday. Alistair Baverstock has more from Mexico City.
The Vox China Academy in Mexico City, where Wang Zuo is teaching his Mandarin students about China's most important annual festival. His students may be first graders, but as they learn to speak Chinese, knowledge about cultural traditions is just as important.
We are making traditional window flowers called chonghua. Practicing these Chinese traditions makes students more interested in speaking the language.
As the Chinese New Year arrives, celebrations will be held across Mexico, not only in Chinese communities, but increasingly in Mexican homes too. And these programs are opening new cultural doors.
Where we live, there is a very welcoming Chinese community, which encourages our children to get involved in their traditions. The children play together, talk together, and from a very young age, they are already becoming familiar with these customs.
For Mandarin teacher Li Hongwu, celebrating Chinese New Year in Mexican classrooms is about much more than arts and crafts.
Chinese New Year is a very big festival for everyone. Studying this will help them to understand our culture and help them to enhance the whole process of Chinese Mandarin learning.
It's cultural knowledge that can bridge social and geographical divisions.
We want to set up the healthy communication with the people all over the world, to communicate with our culture, to exchange our cultural opinion, to enhance our understanding, to build a better world.
As the year of the horse arrives, Mexican classrooms are helping students learn not only a new language, but a new way of seeing the world.
That was Alistair Baverstock in Mexico. Coming up, world leaders and defense officials have gathered for an annual security conference in Europe.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
We're at 11 past the hour. Around 50 heads of state and government, along with top defense officials and diplomats, are attending the Munich Security Conference, which begins on Friday. The forum released its annual Munich Security Report, titled Under Destruction. The report warns the world has entered a period of what it calls wrecking ball politics. The transatlantic rift is one of the major concerns at the forum. Natalie Carney has details.
Key attendees this year include Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Germany's Friedrich Merz, Presidents Emmanuel Macron of France, and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the heads of the UN, NATO, and the EU. The meeting is also expecting its largest ever U.S. delegation, including more than a quarter of the U.S. Senate. Topics on the agenda this year include strained transatlantic ties, the future of NATO, and boosting European defense, continued support for Ukraine and its conflict with Russia, ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, including the Gaza peace plan, cyber and energy security, rapid technological shifts, including AI, and geopolitical competition in the Indo-Pacific. Beyond the main stage, there's a packed schedule of side events, from NATO crisis simulations to industry panels focused on tech innovation and supply chains. Behind closed doors, dozens of high-level bilateral and informal meetings will also be taking place throughout the weekend. The mood is expected to be frank and at times tense, with some participants openly questioning whether the current political frameworks we are working under are still up to the task. Authorities are also preparing for a record number of demonstrations as protesters voice their opposition to the handling of many of the geopolitical flashpoints shaping our world today.
That was Natalie Carney reporting. Munich Security Report 2026 says the Trump administration is widely viewed as the most prominent actor stepping away from the post-war international order that the United States had helped to create. Washington's shifting policies and repeated threats of unsettled transatlantic ties. For more insight, Li Dongning spoke with Wang Le, a researcher at the Center for European Studies at East China Normal University. They discuss whether Europe may pursue a greater strategic self-reliance amid the current political challenges.
Europe can strengthen its strategic autonomy, but we say full or complete self-reliance remains unlikely in the near to medium term because it's constrained by structural and political realities. Statements and policy signals from Donald Trump regarding border sharing and commitments to NATO have accelerated European efforts to strengthen defense investment and institutional coordination. The EU has expanded defense initiatives, promoted joint procurement, and also emphasized technological sovereignty. However, Europe still depends on U.S. capabilities in critical areas, including nuclear deterrence, intelligence, and strategic logistics. In addition, political fragmentation among member states, conflicts, unified strategic planning, strategic autonomy should therefore be understood as relative rather than absolute. Europe's objective is not to replace the United States, but to reduce excessive dependence and increase its capacity for independent actions in regional crises.
Right, based on what you just said, they are actually facing the widening transatlantic rift and the impact of U.S. unilateralism. How should multilateral mechanisms and global governance respond?
Multilateral mechanisms are essential to preserving systematic stability and preventing fragmentation. Institutions such as the United Nations and also the WTO provides institutional frameworks that facilitate dialogue, reduce uncertainty, and manage disputes peacefully. Their importance increases when trust between major countries declines, and as they offer mutual platforms for coordination and rule-based interaction. Also, at the same time, reform is necessary to enhance their legitimacy and effectiveness, particularly by giving great voices to emerging countries and adapting to new challenges such as technological rivalry and supply chain security. This involves not only reforming existing institutions, but also creating new frameworks that reflect the current geopolitical landscape.
That was Wang Le at East China Normal University. NATO Chief Mark Rutte and senior U.S. defense officials have urged European members and Canada to take on more responsibility for the alliance's security. They made the call at a defense ministers' meeting in Brussels on Thursday. Topping their agenda was fresh support for Ukraine and NATO's newly launched Arctic mission following U.S. threats to take over Greenland. William Denslow reports from Brussels.
Well, a huge focus of this meeting has, of course, once again been on Ukraine. How to make sure that as peace talks continue, Ukraine can enter these talks from as strong a position as possible. That is why we're seeing more pledges from more NATO allies to help provide that support that Ukraine needs. We know that the UK has pledged over $500 million when it comes to air defences for Ukraine. We've seen a number of allies, not just the UK, pledging more for Ukraine. We also know from Mark Rutte speaking to the press this week that this is seen as an opportunity really to take stock on those pledges we saw last year from NATO allies to boost defence spending from annual 2% of GDP to 5% come 2035. So very much a status check for NATO allies, with a major high-level summit expected in Ankara in just 5 months' time. The announcement that the Arctic Century is now underway, really underpinning a huge part of this meeting of defence ministers. Essentially, what we're hearing from NATO officials, this is an effort to really put under one umbrella existing programmes, so maybe national programmes underway by Norway, by the likes of Finland, other nations in the high north, and to put it under one NATO umbrella to help improve coordination, help ensure that any kind of gaps when it comes to security are vehemently addressed. Significantly as well, this comes really in the wake of US President Donald Trump criticising fellow NATO members, questioning whether they have the capacity to be able to protect the Arctic region without the US doing drastic action like taking over Greenland, which President Trump has threatened. But we've heard from the US representative here in Brussels who says that a coordinated response is required.
I think we have a really strong basis for working together in partnership, but putting NATO kind of a 3.0 NATO that's based a partnership rather than dependency, and really a return to what NATO was originally intended for.
And that really has been a message echoed as well by Mark Rutte, NATO Secretary General. Plenty of questions about whether this is a unified NATO response or purely responsive to those threats by the US.
That was William Denslow reporting. The rift within NATO between the U.S. and the European member states has been growing since U.S. President Donald Trump questioned the reliability of the alliance and demanded higher defense spending. Trump's recent threats to take over Greenland have added to the tensions and triggered warnings of NATO's collapse. Two of NATO's closest U.S. allies, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, are spelling out what's at stake.
If the United States chooses to launch a military attack against another NATO member state, everything will come to an end, including NATO itself, the alliance we all belong to, and the entire security framework built in the wake of World War II.
No NATO member state should attack or threaten another member of the alliance. If conflict or acts of aggression break out within NATO, the alliance will lose all its meaning.
Well, despite Trump softening his tone on Greenland recently, tensions have spread to tourism, with operators reporting rising cancellations and drops in bookings from American travelers to the autonomous Danish territory. The diplomatic storm over Greenland's turned into an argument about what allies can demand of each other. Even after President Trump dropped his tariff threats on nations opposing his Greenland takeover plan, the fear has placed doubts on the U.S.'s reliability. Evangelos Sipsis has more from Copenhagen.
In Europe, the tariff reversal didn't close the story. It underscored a deeper worry in Brussels and Copenhagen, an ally that feels increasingly unpredictable and a partnership under strain. From Brussels to Copenhagen, officials bristled not just at the announcement, but at what they call a pattern, unilateral pressure and shifting rules inside the alliance. The EU didn't wait long to respond. The European Parliament's Trade Committee froze work on the US-EU deal, citing a breakdown in trust after the Greenland tariff threat. And in Denmark, one of Washington's most loyal partners, the renewed talk of acquiring Greenland hit hard. That anger has spilled into the streets. Demonstrations have recently taken place in both Greenland and Denmark, rallies in Nuuk and Copenhagen condemning Trump's remarks and actions and insisting Greenland is not for sale.
It's not only politicians that are raising eyebrows. For many Danes, it's close at home, literally. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and for them, it's not a bargaining chip. And as they say, it's part of their national identity.
Trump says it's about Arctic security, but legally the U.S. already has access, along with a long-standing military presence on the island. So Danish analysts keep asking, if the U.S. can already operate there, why demand control? And there's the legal reality. Denmark cannot simply sell Greenland. Its future is tied to Greenlanders and their right to decide. That's also reshaping opinion on the island itself. The fallout is showing up beyond diplomacy, in public sentiment and in consumer choices.
The political fallout isn't just theory. It's already showing up in consumer behavior. A popular Danish app helps users boycott U.S. goods, a small but potent signal of frustration.
Europe is adjusting new trade outreach, more defense spending, and a sharper talk about strategic independence, and more discussion, once unthinkable, of a NATO that may one day have to function with less U.S. leadership.
That was Evangelos Sipsis reporting. Coming up, ICE agents are preparing to leave Minnesota.
Foreign tourists are flooding into China for Spring Festival, and the numbers are staggering. Flight bookings are up over 400%. Travel numbers from Argentina, Russia, and Europe are all surging. What's driving the boom? Is Spring Festival becoming a global holiday? And what does it mean for China's cities, economy, and culture? We break it down and share 3 must-dos for first-time visitors on this week's Chat Lounge. Tune in wherever you get your podcasts and on CGTN Radio.
24 past the hour. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is urging residents to remain vigilant in the coming days as immigration officers prepare to leave. The withdrawal comes weeks after ICE shot and killed Minneapolis residents Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. People visiting Good's memorial site on Thursday are hopeful that what's happened in the city will be remembered.
I live very nearby, and I'm emotional to have a connection with people like Renee and the good people of Minneapolis that have stood against the atrocities that are going on.
I hope that doesn't end
with this surge. I hope it can be an inspiration for other communities in the country as well.
I'm fine for lawful enforcement of immigration laws and borders, but when the Trump administration uses federal agencies to basically terrorize its own citizens and act in totally unlawful ways, it's very depressing. And I fear for our democracy.
It's supposed to be a country of prosperity, freedom, and fortune. Come here to find a new life, not to lose your life, you know?
Walz said White House border czar Tom Homan had assured him Thursday morning that federal officers would start leaving immediately, but Homan was vague about a timeline for the drawdown. Homan says immigration enforcement in Minnesota will continue even after this operation ends and that the local ICE office will remain open. Owen Fairclough has more.
Just days ago, the Trump administration announced it was removing some 700 federal agents from the streets of Minneapolis as part of a scale back of its highly controversial and highly contested immigration enforcement program on the streets of Minneapolis. But this Thursday, the Trump administration went a step further, announcing broadly an end to that operation under White House border czar Tom Homan. Let's hear from Tom Homan.
I'm not going to remove everybody out of the state of officers, but like I said, and Operation Metro Surge is ending. And in the next week, we're going to deploy the officers here on detail back to their home stations or other areas of the country that are needed.
So some agents will be left on the streets of Minneapolis, but that's essentially an end to a highly contested, highly disputed immigration enforcement program over the past couple of the months on the streets of Minneapolis that involved some 3,000 federal agents and some 4,000 arrests and the deaths of not one but two protesters in highly visual, highly publicized clashes between protesters and federal agents. And all of that coming on a day when new polling led by Associated Press suggests that the majority of Americans think that President Donald Trump has gone too far in this immigration enforcement program. And those lawmakers will have an eye on midterm elections in November.
That was Owen Fairclough reporting. Fallout from the Epstein files has ensnared high-profile figures across Europe. One of the latest is former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjorn Jagland. Norwegian police say they searched Jagland's properties as part of a corruption probe over his dealings with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Documents suggest that Jagland or his family stayed or vacationed with Epstein between 2011 and 18, despite Epstein's earlier conviction. Other prominent Norwegians caught up in the Epstein files are Crown Princess Mette-Marit, World Economic Forum CEO Børge Brende, and two top diplomats whose children will receive $5 million each from Epstein's estate. In the UK, Chris Wormald, a third senior aide to the Prime Minister, stepped down as Cabinet Secretary and head of the Civil Service. His resignation follows the scandal over the appointment of close Epstein associate Peter Mendelsohn as the ambassador to the United States. A CGTN poll shows the Epstein files have dismantled America's image as a human rights beacon. It's also exposed systemic corruption within U.S. politics and the judicial system. 92% of respondents agree the case proves the collapse of U.S. democracy's moral foundation. 95% have condemned double standards in a justice system shielding the privileged class. With less than half of all files released and key names redacted, 94% label this as selective transparency. Around 90% say the U.S. handling of the Epstein case has undermined the country's judicial credibility. The 24-hour survey across CGTN's 5 language platforms drew 9,700 participants. We're at 29 past the hour. Checking the forecast now ahead of the break. In Beijing's down to -1 this evening. It'll be cloudy and 14 on Saturday. Shanghai's cloudy tonight and tomorrow. A low of 10, a high of 19. Chongqing's cloudy and down to 7, then a light rainfall and 19. Nanchang will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow with a low of 11 and a high of 22. Lhasa overcast tonight and tomorrow. A low of -5 and a high of 9. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's cloudy and down to 9 degrees, and then a high of 21 for Saturday. Vientiane's cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 19, a high of 33. Phnom Penh's getting a light rainfall overnight and 23 degrees. It's overcast and 34 tomorrow. In Africa, Nairobi's getting a light rainfall and 28 degrees on Saturday. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China's rolled out enhanced measures for transport and crowd management to ensure smooth travel during the busy Spring Festival holiday period. Around 50 heads of government and other officials have gathered in Europe for the annual Munich Security Conference. And the governor of Minnesota is urging vigilance in the coming days as immigration officers prepare to leave the state. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. And right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Ever wondered what's actually going on in Africa through the perspective of an African? How are things really going between China and Africa? What's the narrative of this relationship? Well, get a perspective with China-Africa Talk. Hear from African diplomats, entrepreneurs, academics, Chinese natives, and more. Get on our wavelength every week to find out what's real with China-Africa Talk. Find us on your favorite podcast. We'll see you there.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday. Still to come. In business, China's consumer goods trade-in program has reached full coverage across the country. In sports, Chinese speed skaters medaled at the Winter Olympics in Italy. In culture and entertainment, we hear from some performers at the upcoming Spring Festival Gala. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account at CGTN Radio. But now checking the day's headlines, here's Wang Ziheng.
Thank you, Shane. President Xi Jinping and other Chinese leaders have extended Spring Festival greetings to retired senior officials ahead of the holiday on Tuesday. President Xi, who is also General Secretary of the Communist Party and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, wished the officials happiness, good health and longevity. The retired leaders expressed strong support for President Xi's leadership and praised the party and country's achievements over the past year. They also called for unity around the party as China embarks on the 15th five-year plan. China has recovered the first stage of a Long March 10 carrier rocket from the sea, successfully concluding the country's first ever recovery mission of a first stage booster. It's a major step in advancing the country's reusable launch vehicle technology. The Long March 10 rocket launched on Wednesday, and its first stage splashed down in the predetermined sea area shortly after. The rocket is designed primarily for manned lunar exploration and also supports space station operations. China has expressed regret over the European Union's decision to request the establishment of a WTO dispute settlement panel in response to Chinese judicial rulings on standard essential patents. The Ministry of Commerce said China will handle the request properly in accordance with WTO dispute settlement procedures and will defend its legitimate rights and interests. The ministry emphasized that China has always attached great importance to the protection of intellectual property rights. The Bangladesh National Party has won a landslide parliamentary election, paving the way for party leader Tariq Rahman to become prime minister. He is the son of former Premier Khalida Zia and former President Ziaur Rahman. Local TV channels said the PMP secured 2/3 of the seats. Observers say the victory will bring stability to Bangladesh after months of chaos following the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in 2024. The BNP has promised to create jobs, protect low-income households, and ensure fair prices for farmers. Thai Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul has announced coalition talks between two of the country's leading political parties. The Pheu Thai Party, which came third in Sunday's general election, is seeking to join forces with the winning Bujai Thai Party. Putai was previously Thailand's most successful political group, but recent border clashes with Cambodia have led to a swing in public support to the pro-military and pro-monarchy Bujai Thai. Authorities in Madagascar say at least 38 people are dead from Cyclone Gazani, which has affected more than 260,000 across the country. It damaged or destroyed over 55,000 homes. The government declared the state of national disaster this week. 2 Mexican Navy ships carrying humanitarian aid have docked in Cuba as tighter U.S. measures deepen the country's energy crisis. The vessels arrived 2 weeks after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened tariffs on any country supplying oil to Cuba. Mexico says one ship delivered more than 5,000 tons of food and hygiene products, while the second carried over 270 tons of powdered milk. President Claudia Sheinbaum says more aid is on the way, with plans to send an additional 1,500 tons of beans and milk. She adds that Mexico is also pursuing diplomatic efforts to help Cuba secure oil supplies for daily operations. The UN General Assembly has appointed 40 members to the Independent International Scientific Panel on Artificial Intelligence. Their 3-year terms will run until February 2029. They were selected from more than 2,600 candidates. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said the appointments mark a foundational step towards global scientific understanding of AI. The UN chief said the panel is a multidisciplinary group of leading AI experts from across the globe, geographically diverse and gender balanced. They will provide independent assessments of AI's opportunities, risks, and impacts, including to the new global dialogue on AI governance.
All right, thank you very much. That's Wang Ziheng with headlines. Coming up in business, China's consumer goods trading program has reached full coverage across the country.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
At 37 past now, and turning to business, here's Tianyu.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed lower on Friday. The Shanghai Composite was down nearly 1.3%, while the Shenzhen component lost more than 1.2%. Fisheries and navigation equipment were among the top gainers. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index decreased over 1.7%, and in Japan, the Nikkei lost over 1.2%. Meanwhile, international precious metal prices increased on Friday. As of the time of writing, the gold spot price stood at around $4,983 per ounce, up around 1.2%. The silver spot price increased nearly 5%. Since the start of the year, trading services has achieved full coverage across China, spanning from central cities to remote islands. Industry data for rural areas of Heilongjiang, Hunan, and Qinghai provinces shows that subsidized orders for TVs increased over 80% on a yearly basis, while those for air conditioners rose more than 70%. Under the upgraded trading policy this year, customers purchasing refrigerators, TVs, and air conditioners with a Grade 1 energy or water efficiency rating are eligible for a subsidy of 15% of the selling price. Meanwhile, the implementation of the consumer goods trading policy has also spurred demand for home appliance after-sales services. Appointments for home installation are pouring in, with installation training sessions in full swing. A growing number of tourists are heading to the Chinese countryside in search of a traditional holiday atmosphere as Spring Festival approaches. For some Beijing residents, taking a decades-old train linking the capital to rural markets in neighboring Hebei province has become a new trend. Zhou Yixing has more.
In Beijing, an old-fashioned train is drawing fresh attention as it connects the city with small mountain towns north of the capital. In the days leading up to the Spring Festival, the train still departs early each morning, but now with noticeably more passengers, many traveling to countryside markets to stock up for the new year.
We saw this trip on social media and thought it would be fun to come with our family and enjoy the ride together.
I brought my child to experience this old-style train. He's never taken one before. We can go to markets in Hebei to buy fresh farm products. Taking the train is relaxing.
Once the train arrives, streams of passengers head toward the nearby market, bringing new energy to the quiet mountain village.
There are a lot of customers today. It's been really busy. We just got a moment to take a break.
What used to be a small roadside market has now grown into a large-scale open-air marketplace, with more than 100 stalls offering fresh produce, local specialties, and traditional snacks.
I bought peanuts, sunflower seeds, couplets, and freshly fried pancakes.
It was fun for the kids. We mainly brought our child to experience the countryside market.
For decades, this slow train has linked mountain villages with big cities. The 3-hour journey covers more than 100 kilometers, yet costs less than 15 yuan, about $2, making it affordable and accessible for travelers. Today, it also carries urban residents in search of rustic traditions and simple enjoyment. As people head home with fresh local ingredients from the market, the train is now filled with the warmth of everyday life and a growing sense of Spring Festival spirit.
That was Zhou Yixing reporting. China's housing market showed signs of improvement in January as home price declines in 70 large and medium-sized cities generally narrowed from the previous month. In the 4 first-tier cities, including Beijing and Shanghai, prices of newly built homes edged down 0.3% on a monthly basis, while prices of second-hand homes slipped 0.5%. Across 31 second-tier cities, the average monthly price decline was 0.3% for new homes and 0.5% for resold homes. On a yearly basis, the downward pressure persisted as price declines widened in all city tiers. China has maintained policy support for the real estate sector and is seeking to build a new development model amid shifting supply-demand dynamics. The country will adhere to a city-specific, targeted policy approach focusing on controlling new supply, reducing inventory, and improving housing quality. Efforts will also be made to support reasonable financing needs for developers and to better meet resident needs and demand for better housing. Recently, the Chinese yuan passed the 6.9 mark against the US dollar, with onshore and offshore rates briefly hitting their highest intraday levels since April 2023. As of the time of writing, the offshore RMB rate stood at 6.909 and the onshore rate at 6.9117. For more, Zhou Fang spoke with Wang Yaojing, assistant professor of economics at Peking University.
Professor Wang, first of all, what do you see as the main reasons behind the RMB exchange rate recently breaking through the 6.9 level to hit a 3-year high?
Well, the most immediate reason is the broad US dollar weakness. Exchange rates are essentially relative prices of the two currencies, and U.S. macro uncertainty and fiscal concerns, also shifting monetary expectations, are driving the dollar index down in the recent months. And on the other hand, the Chinese export remains resilient with its persistent current account and goods trade surplus, which generates continuous foreign currency inflows. And China recorded historical high trade surpluses, that is close to $1 trillion in 2025, and it's very strong in high-tech manufacturing export. And these performances have supported the RMB demand as exporters have the need to convert foreign currency into RMB and increasing the demand for domestic currency. And besides these most direct and structural factors, other factors also play into the yuan appreciation. For example, global investors have been partially reallocating toward Asian assets as the risk sentiments have been shifting. And Fed's expected easing cycle also reduces the U.S. rate premium and narrowing this rate differentials between the yuan and the dollar and diminishing the attractiveness of holding dollars and supporting the RMB.
At the same time, data also shows the RMB exchange rate continued its appreciation trend at the beginning of this year. So what role have domestic development and monetary policy played in this process?
Well, that's a great question. And now we're talking about more fundamental factors. A key domestic factor has been the relative macro stability versus other major economies. Foreign exchange market price short-term demand weaknesses, but Fundamentally, the prices are built on relative growth and productivity. And China is showing stronger than expected industrial production, and exports in late 2025 and early 2026 have improved China's growth differential versus the US and the EU. China also has released a series of policy support for high-tech manufacturing and new productive forces, which increased expectations of medium-term productivity growth, which also support real exchange rate appreciation. Besides industrial policy, the monetary policy is also another factor. The PBOC easing has been cautious and incremental compared with expected Fed easing. So this narrowing rate differential, as we talked about, increase RMB attractiveness relative to the US dollar. The RMB move must be understood as a bilateral US dollar phenomenon. And we're seeing the Fed easing expectations and also the US fiscal deficits and debt sustainability concerns, as well as slower US growth momentum. These factors all contribute to a weak trend of the dollar and then a stronger trend of the RMB.
That was Assistant Professor Wang Yaojing talking about latest Chinese currency developments. And finally, global toy giant Lego Group says it is doubling down on the Chinese market with a long-term investment strategy, stepping up efforts to roll out products that resonate more deeply with Chinese consumers. With the Year of the Horse approaching, the Danish multinational has launched new sets, including the Lego Galloping Horse Canvas and Lego Fortunate Firecrackers inspired by traditional Spring Festival costumes. Since 2019, it has released 16 sets linked to the Chinese New Year. To date, the company has opened more than 400 stores in over 120 Chinese cities. It has also built a factory in the country, which now supplies the majority of products sold domestically.
Thank you very much. That's Tianyu with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, Chinese speed skaters medaled at the Winter Olympics in Italy.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past now, and turning to sports. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. We start with the short track speed skating event at Milano Cortina 2026 Olympic Winter Games. China's Sun Long finished second in the men's 1,000 meters. The run-up showing marked the first Olympic medal of his career and China's second silver at this edition of the Winter Games.
I've done all I could do. I've shown all I have from daily training. I could not decide how this final or this year's Olympics develop. I could only focus on doing my best. There are still 3 events left for me. I need to go step by step and keep my feet on the ground. No matter what result I've achieved in this race, I will start from zero again. The next 3 events are crucial as well.
The star-studded Group A final featured 3 champions from this season's ISU World Tour. Canada's William Danginu led with 3 laps to go, while Sun found himself third behind Dutch skater Jens van 't Velde. The final lap was dramatic, with van 't Velde overtaking Danginu for first. Sun then stepped up his challenge and surged past the Canadian as well. But the Chinese skater could not get any closer and came second in 1 minute, 24.565 seconds. He finished 0.028 seconds behind van 't Velde. A skater from South Korea snatched the bronze. China's Liu Shao'an, who was the bronze medalist in the event at Beijing 2022 4 years ago, prevailed in the Group B final to come 6th overall. In the women's 500-meter Group B final, China's Fan Kexin fell behind following a crash, but the 32-year-old shrugged off the pain and finished the race in 5th. And in the Group A final, Zandra Valziboa, who set a new world record in the semis, proved peerless again after grabbing gold to deny Italy's reigning champion Arianna Fontana a hat-trick in the event. Valziboa completed a golden double for the Netherlands in the day's short track races. Canadian Courtney Sarraute took third.
China's women curlers beat Britain 7-4 in their first Olympic round-robin match. Skipper Wang Rui led the team with strong focus and control. Sweden leads the standings with 2 wins. Canada, China and Switzerland follow. Reigning world champion Canada beat Denmark. Switzerland defeated host Italy. In the men's play, Britain earned its second win. Italy's Francesca Lollobrigida has ignited audience at the Milano Speed Skating Stadium once again. She stormed to gold in the women's 5,000 meters, claiming the second title at her home Winter Olympics. The 35-year-old crossed the line in 6 minutes 46.17 seconds, just 0.1 seconds ahead of Dutch skater Miro Konijn.
Yes, you could say that in my mind. The moment before the flight was like the Massarte. I can say that I was lucky that I finished on the last corner. I gave my all. Also because in my head, I like the idea of winning the World Cup last year in the 5,000 meters, and of reaffirming myself as an Olympic champion at this distance. I use that as a point of strength. I'm happy that the plan went smoothly.
China's Tai Zhi-en finished in 7 minutes 15.21 seconds to rank 12th in the overall standings. In football, Arsenal drew 1-1 with Brentford in the English Premier League. Nonu Madueke scored first for Arsenal. Brentford equalised 10 minutes later. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says the team will focus on winning every game and improving both as a group and individually.
That's what we have to do. I mean, we're going to be willing and preparing to win every single match, and the only thing that we can do is focus on that and raise the levels collectively and individually to be better than the opponent every week, and that's going to carry on like this till May, regardless we play before or after that. It's just the things that we have to do. That's the most important thing.
With this draw, Arsenal stay 4 points clear of Manchester City. City won 3-0 against Fulham just a day earlier. Arsenal still have to play City in April. Atletico Madrid beat Barcelona 4-0 in the Copa del Rey semi-final first leg. The second leg takes place March the 3rd at Camp Nou. In the other semi-final, Real Sociedad won 1-0 at Athletic Bilbao. And finally, Spain will face England, Croatia and the Czech Republic in the next Nations League. Spain and England met in the Euro 2024 final. Spain won that match. Croatia reached the last 2 World Cup semi-finals. Defending champion Portugal joins Denmark, Norway and Wales. France plays Italy, Belgium and Turkey. Germany, the Netherlands, Serbia and Greece make up the other top group. The group stage runs from September to November 2026. Quarterfinals start in March 2027.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, we hear from some performers at the upcoming Spring Festival Gala.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
52 past the hour. Turning to culture and entertainment. Performers are preparing for the 2026 Spring Festival Gala. Some of them took time to share their experiences and wishes. Actress Bai Lu is returning for her second gala.
The highlight of our act is the cast, 8 of us, 4 men and 4 women. It's youthful and energetic. Compared with last year, I'm not as nervous this year. That's probably the biggest change in me. Still, being back for the gala is just as thrilling. It's truly an honor to spend the Chinese New Year with everyone.
First-time performer Ning Chung from the Taiwan region feels nervous but honored.
This is my first time performing at the gala, so I feel incredibly honored. And yes, quite nervous, of course. Knowing that millions of viewers will watch from home, I really want to deliver something memorable and offer a fresh take on the celebrations. I'm especially grateful to share the stage with some of the artists I've long admired. It feels like a beautiful journey.
The gala airs February 16th on Chinese New Year's Eve. A Spring Festival shopping is underway across the United States. In San Francisco's Chinatown area, businesses are stocking up on red lanterns, horse decorations, and traditional treats. Local shoppers are filling the streets as they prepare to celebrate the Year of the Horse. Mark Neal reports.
I'm in San Francisco Chinatown, which is one of the largest Chinatowns in the United States and the oldest in North America. Let's see where those products are ending up, like the Chinatown Kite Shop, which has been here for 52 years. And let's meet the owner.
My name is Albert Chang. I'm the owner of the shop.
And you've been here a long time, right?
Oh, yeah, since 1972.
You have a lot of products that are coming from China to celebrate the Year of the Horse. Show me some of those interesting products.
Well, Chinese New Year red envelopes, you know. We got some Year of the Horses over here, behind you, the big one, the small one.
And what would a kite shop be without specialized kites? The store made sure to bring in these Pegasus-themed kites in anticipation of the Year of the Horse.
Hope they will symbolize hard working. The horse, you know.
And how old are you now?
I'm 93.
Mm-hmm. And this Year of the Horse, do you want to be working even harder still?
Well, hope not. But I think, in business, I always have to working hard.
In San Francisco Chinatown, you'll also find second-generation store owners like Vincent Feng getting into the spirit too.
Yeah, for Chinese New Year, we sell a lot of red envelopes, and we sell a lot of these called fight train in Cantonese. And every year they basically replace the old one with the new one.
Like these are from China, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shop owners like Feng say it's been a turbulent year for business, but he's very hopeful for what the Year of the Horse may bring.
A horse is a good animal, I believe, because we have the saying called 马斗功成, which is like success if you have the horse.
Feng is hopeful for an influx of tourists who may be attracted by friendly-looking horse products. As frequent international travelers, the Curios say their first trip to China is definitely on the horizon and believe learning about its traditions will help them get prepared.
That was Mark Neo reporting. China's launched a new film promotion campaign in Beijing. The goal is to grow the movie industry and boost box office revenue. The campaign will support cities nationwide in hosting film events. Major partners of the initiative will provide 1.2 billion yuan in discounts and offers. Companies also announced plans to expand LED and VR theaters. 16 cities will pilot Film Plus projects over the next 3 years, and reports say China's film industry chain generated over 810 billion yuan last year. We're at 57 past the hour. Checking the forecast before we go for the weekend, and Beijing's down to -1 on Friday evening. Saturday will be cloudy and 14. Shanghai is cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 10, a high of 19. Chongqing's cloudy and down to 7, then a light rainfall of 19. Nanchung's getting a light rain through the evening and tomorrow, a low of 11, a high of 22. Lhasa will be overcast overnight and through the day tomorrow, with a low of -5 and a high of 9. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's cloudy overnight and down to 9. More clouds and 21 for Saturday. Vientiane's cloudy tonight and tomorrow with a low of 19 and a high of 33. Phnom Penh's getting a light rainfall overnight and 23, followed by overcast skies and 34. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, China's rolled out enhanced measures for transport and crowd management to ensure smooth travel during the Spring Festival holiday period. And around 50 heads of state and government and other officials have gathered in Europe for the annual Munich Security Conference. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters? And what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river? And what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle, and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen, and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts, and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio